Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the Digits Dynasty Podcast, where we are counting down the greatest athletes to wear each and every uniform number, regardless of the sport, regardless of the league. Today, we are looking at the number 81. I'm here with Curtis, who once scored 81 points in NBA Jam. Sega Genesis. How's it going,
Yes,
Curtis?
I was on fire, as they sometimes say in that game, but it's going good. 81's a great number. I'm excited for it. Not going to cover too many sports today, I don't think. Mostly 81 here in football. So,
Oh, football. I thought you were going to say baseball, because I got a slew of people here for baseball.
what do you do? Well, then that'll be surprising because I couldn't really come up with anybody that wore 81 in baseball.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we'll be talking a lot about wide receivers in the NFL.
Any fun facts about the number 81?
A code for international direct dial phone call to Japan is 81. So if you want to call your Japanese cousin or friend or sports athlete.
I don't know anybody in Japan, do you?
I don't.
My grandfather helped rebuild in Japan after the war, but outside of that, I don't know anyone in Japan. I actually have like a shingle from the atom bomb that went off. Some temple, there was a shingle that survived the atom bomb, and he brought that home. It was a gift for helping to rebuild the country after the war.
I think that still doesn't have any sort of...
Radiation?
Yeah, it doesn't have any radiation on it, does it?
I mean, not that I know of now. We'll see what the long-term effects of having it in my dresser is.
I was going to say, keep it out of your house. 81 is the symbolic number for the Hells Angels motorcycle group. H is the 8th letter. A is the first. Put those together, 81. You're a big biker, right? Motorcycle? Oh, that's right.
Not. Only a couple times in my life. I've never owned a motorcycle.
Oh, I've never actually sat on it, or I've never ridden a motorcycle. Bicycle. I like bicycles. Those won't get you in the Hells Angel gang, though. Sorry,
No.
Hells Angel motorcycle group.
No, living down in Florida, there's a little bit too much traffic for a motorcycle for me down here. If I lived in a little more of a rural area,
That's true.
I think I would probably do it, but a little too dangerous for me, I think. Hells Angels, that's, a pretty wild crew there. I don't want to get in trouble with them if we don't rank them as the number 181.
Yeah, I think they win. We'll raise the leather jacket.
Yeah, we'll put a little Hells Angels leather jacket on our wall. That may also be against the Hells Angels.
That's
rules.
true.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where we'd come up with just a Hells Angel jacket. I feel like that's probably someone would get in trouble for that.
So there's a band called Fish. Have you ever heard of the band called Fish?
Fish.
No, they're PH.
Oh, Fish.
Yes, H.
Okay,
A jam band.
I have heard of them.
They have a bassist named Mike Gordon, who once after a concert disappeared with the daughter of a Hells Angels member.
Ooh.
And they couldn't find her or him, but a search began for the girl after the mother of the child became concerned. And the Hells Angels actually found him before the police, and they, quote, held him until the police arrived. So I'm assuming things did not go well for him, and that he's probably suffered a couple minor injuries from that time before the police arrived.
Well, good thing they held him, because without that, he could have gotten hurt or something.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe the girl was underage. I don't think it was.
I feel like being the daughter of a member is probably not a good thing. I feel like they're very protective of their own gang, and it's probably especially family.
Yeah. I'm guessing I would probably ask for permission to disappear for a little bit. I would want them to know where I was. Poor Mike Gordon. I'm sure he suffered some pretty brutal injuries that evening. Who knows? But yes, the Hells Angels, high ranking in the number 81 category today.
81 is the atomic number of thallium.
And what do you know about thallium?
What don't I know about thallium?
What does thallium do? What purpose does it serve in the world?
Atomic symbol Ti. It's not found free in nature. I think thallium salts, I guess, are pretty toxic, but they're used historically in rat poisons, insecticides. So it's not something you want to keep in your house. But I think it's all those kind of high metal elements, those high number elements, I feel like are found in a lot of kind of computer or electronic type stuff too.
So it can kill rats, but it's also going to help run my computer?
Probably. Made a short reference to it earlier, but of course, 81 is the number of points that Kobe had in his career high scoring game, second highest scoring game of all time behind Wilt Chamberlain. 81's a lot of points.
81's a lot, especially in modern basketball. I know they put up a lot of shots. To score 81, with the defensive capabilities that they have today, no more, they can play zone. They can really do anything they want defensively. Really, really is impressive. And I'm a big fan of that commercial with
Jalen Rose.
Jalen Rose. And, they ask, take Kobe's order, and he orders a martini. The waiter asks how many olives and looks right at Jalen Rose in the eyes and says 81. So I believe Jalen drew the defensive assignment that evening.
He was supposed to guard him that night.
I don't know where he was at that game, but
not guarding Kobe Bryant. Kobe played 42 minutes. He shot 28 of 46 from the field, 7 of 13 from 3, and 18 of 20 from the foul line.
Wow, that's a lot of shots. But, I mean, that's pretty good shooting percentage. 28 of 46, you said?
Yeah, it's over 50.
I mean, that's probably as well as your team's going to do, so it's hard to complain if he's making that many, that he's shooting that many. Did they win the game?
Yeah, it was 122 to 104. So even scoring 122, it's not like no one else scored. There's 2 other guys with double digits.
Yeah, how many assists did he get that night?
2 assists.
Well, maybe he had some great passes, but they just weren't making the shots, so he decided to take it into his own.
They said, no, yeah, you're on fire. You take it back. Just a quick recap on 81. There's not much. These high numbers, I feel like, are tough to find too much information about. Like we said earlier, I think we're going to be spending a lot of time in the NFL today, so I think we'll knock out some other sports first. I think we can probably already agree that if you're wearing number 81 in any other sport, you're probably not one of the best guys on the team. So maybe we'll already reserve our final countdown for an NFL player. I feel like we'll already put that in our top couple.
I think it's safe to say, especially once we start going through some of these NFL players, especially receivers, probably mainly receivers.
Yeah, I think I had just one defensive guy, but yeah, receivers is...
And it kind of feels like a battle of who is the all-time greatest wide receiver.
There's some good...
I know Jerry Wright didn't wear 81, but there's quite a few guys that I would say are in the top 5 of receivers of all time.
You probably can't have more than 5 of those guys in the top 5, Curtis.
How many can you have in a top 5? 81?
Oh, that's too many, I think. Your math's a little off. In Major League Baseball, got 2 guys who wore the number 81. Eddie Guardado, he wore 18 for most of his career. He was a relief pitcher. 2 years with the Reds organization that he swapped to 81. He was the first player to wear 81 for more than 1 season. Another guy, Ryan Thompson, who spent 5 years with the Rays and Diamondbacks. He had a career 8-10 record with a 3.29 ERA. And when he first got invited to spring training, his number was 81, so he stuck with it, sees it as his identity now. He had said, when asked about his number, he said, I made my debut with 81. My first big league number was 81. I had success with it, so I figured let's keep it rolling. Of course, I get a lot of crap from the guys like, hey, what are you, our team wide receiver? It's hilarious. It is pretty funny to see 81 on a guy. Anything over 50 in baseball is...
Yeah, it seems odd. I mean, unless you're like an oddball, like, I don't know what number Ron Artest wore. I know Rodman had 91, but they started to wear some wild numbers in basketball. Yeah, if you're not in football or hockey, this number seems a little strange. So these guys getting a shout out where they probably don't get talked too much about in any sports podcasts anywhere.
Moving on to basketball, Jose Calderon is the first NBA guy to wear number 81. He spent the majority of his career wearing number 8, but he was born in 1981, and he wore 81 for the Cavaliers and Pistons in 2018 and 2019. Though we didn't see too much success in the NBA, he is a 2-time silver medalist in 2008, 2012 in the Olympics for Spain.
Okay.
And then the other NBA guy, Mie Oni, he went to Yale. He spent 3 years with the Jazz, and he actually switched mid-season just a few days after the death of Kobe. He was wearing the number 24. He had switched to number 81 to honor the late Kobe Bryant, of course, representing the 81-point game that we talked about earlier. And also the LA area code, which I guess we didn't mention earlier, is 818. That's kind of interesting as well.
Okay.
Got a little 81 in there. But he's, again, not someone you're gonna be passing on stories about, but pretty cool that he honored Kobe. I know Kobe is just really all over the world. He was just like an icon. It's cool that you can kind of honor him in that way to wear number 81 for his greatest basketball performance.
For sure. And I know we're going to probably get into Kobe a lot more when we get to 24-8.
That's actually going to be a tough debate because when you cut your 20-year career in half and you have two pretty incredible careers with each of those numbers, that's going to be a fun little challenge.
Yeah, and he's got some competition at those numbers as well. But, to find out, because his reputation was that he didn't have a lot of friends when he played. He was so competitive that everyone was his enemy, and he wanted to make sure that he was keeping that competitive edge. I feel like once he passed away, you found out how much of an impact he had on everyone around him and some of the younger guys in the league that looked up to him, that he actually mentored and helped come along, which, I don't want to say was surprising, but it was kind of all behind the scenes, I felt like, and he didn't do that in public.
Yeah, you got a lot of those stories about just the drive he had. And then obviously, once he passed away, you kind of hear all these stories about the young guys who's like, hey, you want to work out with me? We're going to the gym at 4 a.m. and we're going to bust our ass. And that's what we're going to do every day. If you're not going to be there, then or you're going to go out and party, you still better be at the gym at 4 o'clock if you want to work out with me.
Obviously died too young, but I feel like he was just starting to begin his career as
his second career.
Yeah, as a mentor in the league, and who knows where that would have taken him.
Just a basketball icon. He won his Oscar right before he passed away as well.
Yeah. Just tragic.
Yeah, it's sad. Any other basketball guys?
Not basketball. No. I mean, like you said, it's not a common number, so it's hard to find much on basketball.
And we'll just quickly again tap into some NHL guys. Miroslav Satan. He had a 14-year career, 12 years with 4 teams as the number 81. He won 1 Stanley Cup with the Penguins. Phil Kessel had a 17-year career. 16 of those he wore 81 with 4 teams. 3 Stanley Cup wins with the Penguins and Golden Knights. And then we have a couple of brothers that both wore the number 81, Marian Hossa and Marcel Hossa. I think Marcel was actually born in 1981, so he wore 81 for 5 of his 6-year career. He wore that with 3 teams. Once he retired, Marian actually switched his number to 81. I think it just happened to be that way where he had gone to a team where the number 18 that he had worn for the first 10 years of his career went to 2 different teams that both had the number 18 retired, so he had to switch to 81. But it was pretty cool that both him and his brother got to wear that pretty unique number. And he won 3 Stanley Cups with 2 teams and actually was voted as the best to wear the number 81 by an NHL panel.
Yeah, I don't think there's much debate in hockey as to who wore it best. But not wearing it his whole career, he was able to get 500 goals and 1,000 points, but obviously didn't do all that wearing number 81. So
yeah, it was about half his career. So
we're talking about who wore it best.
Well, when there's only a handful of guys that wear the number and you're a Hall of Famer, I feel like the best half of his career was the one with 81, but he is a Hall of Famer, so got to count for something there.
Yes.
I do think that is all that we have outside of the sport of football, unless you have someone else that I missed.
Well, there has been 81 in NASCAR.
Oh,
I know we touch on NASCAR occasionally.
Yeah, that is not my sport.
Nothing that's going to shake the football world and cause any disruption in that conversation. 81 has been worn throughout. Has been
displayed,
driven.
Ooh,
and been driven by a couple of Earnhardts, Tony Stewart, Martin Truex Jr., Jimmy Johnson drove it in the Truck Series once. But it only has 1 victory in NASCAR, that coming at Bristol by Earnhardt Jr. But that was in the Xfinity Series, wasn't even in the main Cup Series. So
I guess we'd probably consider him the greatest 81 if you have 1 win out of 1 wins.
Yeah, but I mean, it was driven by the Earnhardt family. It was also driven by John Andretti. So a couple of...
That's some pretty well-known names.
Yeah, so some racing families there who wore 81 in NASCAR. There I say wore again. I don't know how you express drove.
Yeah, I know what you mean when you say wore. I'm just giving you a hard time. I feel like we say it so often with all the other jerseys that we're talking about.
But I don't think they wear their number on their suit.
Yeah, it's not like they have. That's true.
Drove the number 81.
So we should be honoring the car itself, not the driver.
Well, the car number is, owned by the team.
Guess that's, yeah.
So if they change drivers, the car stays the same. The number doesn't change. The driver changes. So it's kind of hard to say who drove it best. But I know we've got Earnhardt hanging up on the wall right now at number 3. But
Should we switch that to the door, like the door itself?
just hang the door.
Hang the door instead of his jacket?
Yeah, maybe I can go online on eBay and auction for Earnhardt's door and get that number 3.
So moving on to the NFL, currently the number 81 has not actually been retired by any NFL team, which again is surprising when we start going through all these guys that really exemplified the number 81 and had some pretty stellar careers, a lot of Hall of Famers.
That really surprises me. The caliber of players that we have here at number 81. I know we haven't listed them off yet, but, Calvin Johnson and Terrell Owens.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, but T.O. with the Eagles, 5 NFC championships in a row. I know they didn't win a Super Bowl, but it seemed like a pretty good career there. And then Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, so some guys.
One of the best players in their history.
For sure.
I don't know what you got to do to retire a number for the Lions. They need something to celebrate.
Yeah, they didn't make it to any conference championship games.
Well, no. Did he even win a playoff game?
I don't think he won a playoff game.
That's too bad.
So let's start listing some of these guys, though. One of the earlier ones, Carl Eller, defensive end. He wore number 81 for 15 years with the Vikings, currently in the Hall of Fame, named to the all 1970s Hall of Fame team. Art Monk spent 14 years with the Redskins, where he was a 3-time Super Bowl champion. Spent 1 year with the Jets before switching to number 85 for his final season of his career with the Eagles. He had 68 touchdowns with the number 81 and is on the all 1980s Hall of Fame team.
And then you have Tim Brown for the Raiders, wore 81 there. He played for a couple other teams, quite possibly one of the best Raiders to ever play, and also won the Heisman Trophy there at Notre Dame, wearing the number 81 as well. So he wore it pretty well. Hall of Famer. Never did get an NFL championship or Super Bowl win, but a Heisman Trophy instead.
Yeah, I don't know if it's an equal trade, but that's definitely a pretty elite company.
Yeah, I think when he returned back-to-back punts, that was kind of when the tides turned and he started to really be in the top of the conversation for the Heisman Trophy. Won it over Emmitt Smith.
Ooh, that's actually a pretty good...
I mean, Emmitt was like 7th in voting. I don't know who was 2nd, but...
Yeah, he was on the all 1990s team. But you mentioned he went to Notre Dame. He had said when he first got to Notre Dame, he wanted number 6 because that's what he wore in high school. A veteran older receiver, Milt Jackson, was wearing the number 6, so he couldn't get it. They said, we're going to give you 81. So Ken McAfee and a lot of great Notre Dame guys have worn it. And he said, all right, well, I'll put on the number, maybe do something a little different with it. Put it on, never again took it off for the rest of his career. Did take some effort once he got to L.A. With the Raiders. He had worn 85 in preseason. He said, I was crying the whole preseason, trying not to go to the media about it, but eventually he made a deal with the tight end who was wearing the number 81. He said he gave him like $4,000, but his wife was mad because she had just had a diamond-encrusted 81 pendant made, so she wasn't too happy about switching 81. But that tight end was Andy Parker. So Andy Parker...
Who?
Yeah, he had 2 receptions for 8 yards and 1 touchdown. So I think between the two, I'd say that Tim Brown was a little bit better overall. 9-time Pro Bowler. Over the course of his career, he had just under 1,100 receptions at 1,094, just under 15,000 yards receiving, and 100 touchdowns. Of course, he's in the Hall of Fame. Pretty solid guy. I feel like we've kind of talked about these receivers who just kind of do their job. You don't really hear much about him. He just ran routes, caught passes, and ran lots of yards.
Yeah, went about his business quietly. 99 receiving touchdowns, so...
I guess I was off on that.
But he did have 1 rushing, a couple punt returns, a couple kick returns.
Yeah. That's what I was going for.
So over 100, but when you're talking about receiving...
I'm going to have to talk to the stat guy about that.
Only got the 99.
But he's definitely, one of the greatest receivers of all time. Anything else on Tim Brown?
No, I don't think so.
Next guy, I think you probably heard of, Terrell Owens, T.O., spent 15 years with the 49ers, Eagles, Cowboys, Bills, and Bengals. Get your popcorn ready.
It's my quarterback.
Now I want to go see you do some sit-ups in the driveway.
See the one riding the bike and doing the sit-ups? That was him?
During the lockout, right?
Was it?
Or maybe he was doing a holdout or something. Drew Rosenhaus was his agent.
Hard Knocks? Was that the same season they were on Hard Knocks?
Oh, I'm not sure.
I don't remember, but what a
Character?
diva. What a diva. He loves some spotlight, doesn't he?
He did like that spotlight. Because obviously he had the great touchdown celebrations as well. Pulled out the Sharpie. Remember when I think it was with the 49ers, but playing in Dallas, scored the touchdown, ran out to the center star, made a big display there, scored a second touchdown that same game, did it again, and then the Cowboys, I think it was one of the cornerbacks, I guess, just went and kind of like tackled him. I think got a flag. You got to imagine Jerry Jones really appreciated that, kind of defending the star.
George Teague went down and said, you know what? I don't think I'm going to have any more of this.
Make a stand.
Yeah.
Then, of course, he goes back and plays for the Cowboys a couple years later. He had 1,078 receptions, just under 16,000 yards receiving, 153 touchdowns.
Wow.
6-time Pro Bowl, 5-time All-Pro. Again, Hall of Fame member, although I think that was in his second year of eligibility. I think media didn't really want him getting it on a first year.
That's garbage.
And then he didn't actually go to his enshrinement ceremony. He had his own kind of ceremony down at Chattanooga, where he went to college.
Yeah, University of Tennessee, Chattanooga.
Yeah.
So, small college.
He actually played basketball for them and was in the March Madness tournament.
I believe that. Do you know how far they made it?
I don't even think they made it one game, or they didn't win one game.
I mean, he's definitely built for basketball as well, but drafted in the third round. So, you're talking about one of, if not the best receivers of all time, going in the third round for the Niners.
By a lot of people.
They were pretty good in the draft. They knew how to build a team back then, and even do today. They had a slow period there in the late 90s, 2000s, but they're back on track and doing pretty well at picking players. They didn't draft T.O.'s son this year, but they did sign him undrafted, and they're going to give him a chance. So T.O.'s son now has a chance to play for the Niners and follow in his father's footsteps. But interesting that he didn't go to his Hall of Fame speech or enshrinement. I guess
I think he did feel slighted for not getting it.
And he should.
He was the just stat wise one of the top 3 to 4 receivers of all time, and I'd be frustrated because he had a lot of media incidents, and I think that probably held him back a little bit more than it shouldn't hold you back.
That shouldn't matter.
It should just be what you do on the field, just like with us. When we talk about these numbers, it's just what you do with the number. You can kind of have extracurricular stuff, but we just focus on the field. When you put on that jersey, says whatever number we happen to be talking about this week, that's all that should matter.
That's right. Respect the art, not the artist. We're just talking about what happened between the lines. And if we're offended at
or on the asphalt,
what's that?
Or on the asphalt, or
the wood.
The wood.
What do they make basketball courts out of?
Oh, yeah, okay. You kind of threw me off there. You could say between the lines for them, too.
On the turf, in the grass, in the water.
What sport wears numbers in the water?
Water polo?
If you can name me one water polo athlete and tell me their number, I'll be pretty impressed.
I'm a big water polo fan.
There's no horses in that one.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, that's not the same one.
What about the sport where they carry like the horse on a stick and they run and jump?
We're not going to be talking about that in our podcast at all.
That's slowly becoming my favorite sport.
I feel like I see those highlights on random social media stuff, but yeah, let's just move on from that.
Hey, respect the art, not the artist. That's the whole point of this. And, and for journalists to say, oh, well, I don't like the way he handled himself with the media, and that's going to cause him to not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I can't stand that about the Hall of Fame and sports and the media. We could get into it. I think we've got into it a little bit with baseball and some earlier shows, but I'm a little over it.
And I think we will continue to tap into that.
Yeah, why aren't the fellow players and coaches the ones that are doing the voting? It should not be the people that just cover the game, which I'm not discounting them. These people are very passionate about the game. They know the game. They know the rules. They are a part of it, but also shouldn't be the ones.
And I feel like they could have bad experiences with some of these guys that they're reporting on. I feel like there's a lot of one-on-one conversations, especially now. I feel like the line of reporter and athlete just kind of has become so blended with Twitter and all these kind of social media thing. I feel like the access to players and between players and reporters is just so close, and there's really no kind of defined line anymore.
Yeah, but then I'm thinking about what some of these players are saying to each other on the field. It can't be, it's got to be much worse than what they're saying to the journalists.
That's probably true.
Every once in a while, you get someone mic'd up, and it's, eesh. But they still seem to find a way to respect each other and respect each other's game. It irks me a little bit, Blair.
Ooh, you're irked.
I'm a little irked. I feel like T.O. should have been first ballot, 100% of the votes. There really should have been no question.
There's a lot of those over the last couple of weeks going through, doing a lot of research on these guys. It really is hard to believe that a lot of these guys that there's not more guys that have gone in unanimously. Like some of these, we'll get into some of these kind of surefire Hall of Famers and best of their sport players. You like Nolan Ryan a lot. Like, how does that guy not get in with 100% of the vote? You have 5,700 strikeouts. You have pitched in 27 seasons. Is there really a debate as to who the greatest pitcher of his generation is? It's crazy.
Yeah, there shouldn't be. And then, you sent me something the other day where his career matched up against someone who was a 2-time Cy Young winner, and Nolan never won a Cy Young award. It's weird. Some of these things are, but that's sports. That's kind of how it goes sometimes.
And that's how I feel like that's why fans are so passionate, and kind of why we started the podcast too. I feel like you're just constantly sitting around a bar or sitting around watching a game, and you're like, I feel like it's an endless conversation that it's fun, but can get frustrating sometimes.
Certainly. Now T.O. should have been first ballot, of course. We said that. One of my favorite T.O. on the field plays, stories is when he, T.O. was involved in what's known as the catch 2. Obviously you have that first catch between Joe Montana and Dwight Clark in the back of the end zone in the 82 playoffs, and is kind of regarded as one of the most memorable catches in NFL history. But then you have T.O., who with 8 seconds left in the fourth quarter won the game for the 49ers. The 49ers, who had just lost the lead to the Packers late in the fourth quarter, were facing, I believe, a 3rd and 3 when San Francisco T.O. caught a 25-yard touchdown from Steve Young and led them to a victory 30-27. So now referenced as the catch 2, especially by the Niners. They
like their catches.
They love their catches, but big catch, big game, and had a big drop earlier in the game, so they went right back to him, and he was able to stick it in there from Steve Young, cement himself in Niners history.
I always like the T.O. story where I think it was might have been the last home game of the, I want to say 99 season, when Jerry Rice, I'm not sure why he was leaving the 49ers, if it was just we're parting ways or what. It was well known that it was going to be his last season with the 49ers, and I think it was the last home game. And I remember T.O. he's like thinking like, all right, this is Jerry Rice's last game. Like what could I do to kind of make this a memorable game for him? And he's like, oh, maybe I'll start running towards the end zone and kind of pitch him the ball at the end so he kind of gets an easy touchdown. And 20 receptions later, he was setting at the time, the record for most receptions in a game. So that was the memorable game that he left behind for Jerry Rice. He had his most catches ever in a single game.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Rice was leaving the Niners because of Terrell Owens and his emergence and his
was that it?
Dominance.
Okay.
Yeah, they needed to clear some cap space to try and build the team in addition to T.O. and Bill Walsh. He said enough is enough. Thanks for your service. And probably the right call. I mean, Jerry Rice still played a few more years, but
Yeah, it was not because I think he went to the Raiders. Definitely didn't have the same type of career that he had with the Niners, but he's the greatest receiver of all time.
Terrell Owens, yes.
T.O. has got to be, I think, top five. I'll keep saying it. There's a lot of top fives. I think I'll agree with you. I think there are a lot of top fives in this list.
Yeah, and as in a team sport like football, Jerry Rice was fortunate enough to play for 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, was a member of a team that had an amazing defense, a good running game, and they were able to get some championships. If T.O. would have played the same career time as Jerry Rice with Joe Montana and the same amount of time with Steve Young, would he have been able to put up, close to the same amount of numbers, win the same amount of titles? That's where these debates are murky, because not everybody plays under the same conditions. So to say you're the best receiver because you won 4 Super Bowls,
or you didn't win any Super Bowls and you have 16,000 yards receiving,
right?
And that's what's fun about it.
Yeah, it is. It is fun. So yeah, maybe T.O. is the greatest. I don't think personally I'm putting him at number 1, but I don't think I've got Jerry Rice at number 1 either, and that may upset some people. Ooh. Stay tuned.
Next guy you had already mentioned earlier, another member of the Hall of Fame. He was a member of the all 2010 Hall of Fame team, Calvin Johnson.
Amazing player.
And he just talked about it with, if he's somewhere else, if he played 9 years with the Lions, never won a playoff game, 83 career touchdowns, just over 11,000 yards receiving. I feel like he's someone who, if he plays for 15 years, if he plays for 9 years and has 2 Super Bowls, where do we talk about him? He was just an unbelievable receiver, just so consistent. When he retired, he had the season record for most receiving yards, just a Megatron for real. He's a big dude that just caught everything.
Great nickname, great player. And you're absolutely right. Had the circumstances been a little bit different, I think his career numbers and wins, and maybe he would have played a little bit longer. I think he got a little exhausted losing in Detroit and not having the help around him. But he could have probably gone somewhere else and said, you know what, I'm going to go play somewhere else. After 9 years, I feel like you have a little bit of freedom to, if you wanted to go play for Bill Belichick and the Patriots and try and tack one on, I'm sure he could have. Yeah, only 9 years, no playoffs wins, but I don't think there's any doubt that he's regarded as one of the greats either. So feel bad for him, kind of. I feel bad that, because he, again, is another guy that just went about his business, didn't cause a lot of drama.
But I think someone who's probably beloved in Detroit. He stayed there his whole career. I think that always we've kind of touched on that a little bit over the last couple of weeks. But I think you spend your whole career with one team. I feel like the fans of that team definitely respect that, especially in this day and age when you could be like, I'm gonna take some less money. I'm gonna try to win something.
Yeah, but something's going on there between Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson.
That's true.
2 of the best at their position have both retired early after not being able to get much in the playoffs.
Maybe all with this concussion stuff, maybe they were just ahead of their time. They didn't want to put their body through more years after you've already made a lot of money.
A lot of money. You're probably not wrong. And, who knows how much Barry and Calvin spoke. Maybe Barry gave him a little bit of advice that he said, you know what, you might be onto something here. I've set myself up and my family up, and I'm going to get out while I'm ahead. I don't want to have CTE.
Another guy who did jump around, Randy Moss. He had spent most of his career with the Vikings, of course, number 84, but he did go join the Patriots and Tom Brady and switched to the number 81. Of course, he spent 3 years there and has probably picked the 3 worst years of Tom Brady's career to join Tom Brady, at least Super Bowl wise. They did in that 2007 year, they definitely combined for 23 touchdowns and 1,500 yards receiving. They won 18 games that year. they lost one game.
The infamous 18-1 season.
That was most wins of all time in one season.
Probably one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant receiver quarterback combo seasons of all time.
It's probably up there with I know in '98 when Moss was first up there with the him and Randall Cunningham. I think they had a pretty dominant.
Those were some fun years to watch Randy Moss. But I feel like there's just a couple plays with Brady where he just launches it up in the air and somehow Randy Moss is standing in the end zone with the ball and a touchdown. And I think Brady was probably living on the high life there because he didn't always have the biggest, greatest receivers on his team. He had to get it done with some smaller guys and doing a little bit more on his end. So it's probably nice to just be able to launch it up that year and know that Randy's down on the other side.
Yeah, no, there's one of the more memorable ones is when he just launches it, and I think he catches it. Randy Moss catches it one-handed over Darrelle Revis in the end zone. Just like, he's just incredible.
Yeah, did he catch one like behind his back? I mean, he caught one.
Probably.
It's like, I feel like he caught one behind his back, one-handed over three guys.
Probably through the legs. I don't know. He was just so incredible.
He was incredible. And, now you have the term of getting mossed.
Yeah.
And he was amazing. And that team, probably too bad they didn't win, but hey, that's why they play the game.
That's why they play the game. Another Patriot that I don't even know if we should mention his name, but wore 81 for his final 2 years, wore 85 for his rookie season, a young man by the name of Aaron Hernandez. He had 12 touchdowns in those 2 years. And that duo of him on one side, Gronk on the other, as a Patriots fan, that was an exciting thing to be looking forward to. And then something, I didn't finish the research, but something happened there where he didn't play anymore after that.
I feel like we stopped hearing about him on the football field.
Yeah, so not sure what happened there, but also being a Connecticut guy, he was from Connecticut. For a little while, they said he was going to go to UConn because his brother was the quarterback there. I think they had always wanted to play together, but ultimately, obviously, he joined Tim Tebow down in Gainesville, and they did pretty good together.
We're 81 there. I know that Urban Meyer had to kind of, keep an extra eye on him while he was at Florida. Probably shouldn't have gone to the Patriots, and maybe if he had gone to the Patriots, things would have ended up a little bit differently for him.
And maybe a little too close to home.
I think so. Wasn't able to get away from some bad influences, but ultimately made some poor decisions and is no longer with us. But that Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski duo, gosh, if they would have held around and been able to play even more seasons, that was really unstoppable.
Because they were both the same size. They were both 6'5", fast. They were probably better receivers than they were blockers, but still very good blockers.
Yeah, you could use them for blocking. Great hands, great route running, and obviously a great quarterback. So, yeah, what could have been for that team? And obviously down in Florida, that team was stacked, but he was able to help Tebow get some extra touchdowns with his ability there in Florida.
I feel like I keep seeing things where we need a 30 for 30 on that 2007 Florida Gators alumni, people who were on campus during that time, and just what must have been going on down there. But obviously Tim Tebow, Aaron Hernandez, Urban Meyer, Ryan Lochte,
Pouncey brothers, Percy Harvin,
Cam Newton, Brandon Spikes, Joakim Noah, Percy Harvin, and Billy Donovan.
Al Horford out there, probably.
Corey Brewer.
They had so many athletes
that
at that time.
Just were had some stories about them.
I'm sure the parties were epic. Those guys did not shy away from the parties. Tim Tebow was probably pretty nervous that all his players were not going to make it to practice on Monday.
Make sure we come home by midnight.
But they did do
in the morning.
They did do a documentary, and I was really excited, but it was
they didn't really go in depth, right?
No, what do they call those? A puff piece?
Yeah.
Where they were like, oh, everything's great.
Yeah.
And Urban Meyer's amazing. And
disappointing.
They didn't even really touch on Aaron Hernandez. And I feel like there's so much there to talk about. There's so much that would make for good content. And all they really talked about was, how wonderful Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow were. I want to get into the nitty gritty of what was happening on campus.
Your wife was on campus during that time, right?
She was. Yeah, and she won't talk about it. She won't tell me.
Maybe that's it. They all like it's like an unwritten thing.
I think she had her nose in the books, and probably not a bad thing.
That's what she tells you. Yeah, it's kind of like the unwritten, like the Gator code. Like you don't, what happened on campus, that's what happened.
And if you're not a Gator, you're Gator bait. But she would see those guys on campus, and she said they were pretty larger than life.
Like literally as well.
Oh, she said they were massive. That's SEC country down there. But yeah, some big guys and legends in their sport.
Yeah, they won football championship and basketball championship the same year, right? Was that 2007 or 2008?
Yeah, they won back-to-back basketball championships, I believe, that were bookended by football championships, but they're also winning gymnastics championships.
Yeah, they're pretty good there. Softball,
swimming,
pretty good.
Softball, yeah, baseball. I mean, they've really, they were really in their prime at that time.
Oh, I like that. That's a good little rhyme. It's like prime time.
Yes, I am a poet, and I didn't know it.
I think you just ruined it there. Spend way too much time on Aaron Hernandez there. A couple other just guys to mention. Don't really have to talk, unless you want to. Don't really have to talk too much. Anquan Bolden, 13 of his 14 years, was wearing 81. One-time Super Bowl champion. 2015 Walter Payton Man of the Year. Torrey Holt, the last 8 years with the Rams and Jags, he wore 81. He did not win the Super Bowl with the number 81, but did where he won one with the number 88, but he was named to the Hall of Fame All-2000s team. Al-Zahir Hakim, 8 of his 9 years, he wore 81 and did it with the 99 Rams. He was wearing 81 when they won the Super Bowl. Rocket Ismail, another guy who played for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. He was projected to be the first overall pick in the NFL draft. The CFL had other ideas. The Toronto Argonauts, with Wayne Gretzky and John Candy, the actor, they had purchased the team, and they made Ishmael a groundbreaking offer, $18.2 million over 4 years. The average value of his contract was $4.5 million a season, was more than the CFL salary cap of $3 million per team. So they had a salary cap in place, but the rules contain an exemption for a marquee player who wouldn't count against the cap. Doug Flutie, he was about to be paid $1 million under the exemption, but they really wanted, obviously, some marquee players that if they could steal them from the NFL, it'd be pretty good. The highest paid NFL player at the time was Joe Montana, another Notre Dame alum, who was making $3.25 million a year. I feel like he fouled the money, largest in Canadian or American football history, did win the Grey Cup with the Argonauts. And then Toronto was having some financial issues, so he did go and play for the NFL. He wore 81 for the last 7 of his 9 seasons with the Panthers and Cowboys. He was actually Quadri Ishmael. His brother was nicknamed the Missile. He had another brother, Suleiman Ishmael, who was nicknamed the Bomb.
I think they were running out of nicknames at that point.
So his mother, they referred to as the Launch Pad because of her son's nicknames. Rocket.
The Launch Pad?
The Launch Pad. I know, it sounds...
Okay.
Because of the son's nicknames, Rocket, Missile, and Bomb.
Did you say their mother has the launch pad?
They referred to her as the launch pad.
That could go 2 ways.
Hopefully it just goes the good way. His second career, after he retired, he coached the Bouncers in the Extreme Sports League Slam Ball.
It wasn't the Bullets or the...
I know, that'd been good. The year he coached, they went 2-10, missed the playoffs, and the Bouncers did not return the following year. So I feel like he should have stuck with football, but he coached slam ball. It's actually...
Did all the Ishmael brothers wear 81? Or did we just go on about the Ishmael brothers?
I just thought it was a very cool fact that all players were professional in some way or played college. It was just
very impressive.
It was more of a cool story.
They were starters. They were all really good. But Rocket Ishmael, what a great nickname. And he was really fast out there.
Like a rocket.
Like a rocket. We had his name in trivia the other night. What was his first name?
Yeah, that was the question. We had just been, it's funny that we had been doing the research for this, and then we had gone to a trivia night, and the question was, what was it? This NFL player is nicknamed the Rocket. What was his first and last name?
Yeah.
But it was pretty convenient that we had literally just been doing the research. Of course, his name is Rakib Ishmael. We did get that one right. I don't know if anyone else got it right. I feel like there wasn't too many cheers when they announced that one.
No, it wasn't a big sports crowd that night.
Not many of our trivia nights are, so it's an older crowd. Dick Night Train Lane spent 14 years with the LA Rams, Chicago Cardinals, and Detroit Lions. I did say Chicago Cardinals. Obviously, the nickname Night Train. Just one story I had to mention with this. He got his nickname from fellow Hall of Famer Tom Fears, who was playing the 1952 Buddy Morrow hit Night Train when Lane stopped by to talk about formations, as he often did. One of the few black players in the NFL at the time, he didn't really care for the racial connotation with the new nickname, but then he saw it in a headline, Dick Night Train Lane derails Charlie Choo Choo Justice, and he fell in love with the nickname. So he did hit with locomotive intensity and tried to knock their lights out. I'd say Night Train was a pretty good nickname for him.
Great nickname. Different era in football.
Yeah.
I love some of those old clips. You know,
there are people who did not care about head injuries at the time.
No.
But probably paid for it later on. Any other NFL guys you're looking to mention before we try to narrow it down to a single?
Not NFL, but there is one more football guy that I think needs to be mentioned.
Ooh, let me guess. Don't know.
Julius Campbell, ringing any bells?
Strong side.
Remember the Titans, Julius Campbell.
I did not remember the Titans, apparently.
Yes, he laid the foundation for integration.
Was Denzel really his coach, or was that just the actor?
I mean, I'd do anything Denzel told me to do.
If he's
the fear.
If he wanted me to run through Gettysburg at 10 in the morning or 8 in the morning, or whatever time they did that, I think that was
Herman Boone.
Herman Boone. T.C. Williams?
Yes. I mean, and really, not to kid, that what a time to be a football player and have to live and play under those circumstances.
I think it was very true. It was a very true story. Like, I think it followed what happened pretty accurately, I think. Like,
yeah, I'm sure it was embellished, but Gary Bartier was injured after the championship game and not before.
I do know he was like was it Paralympics, or he was a pretty good athlete after his injury, though.
Yeah, still went on. I don't know what sport, but I do know that he was a Paralympic athlete, and I love that. I love that he was still able to get his life on track, and you know, a lot of respect for taking an injury like that and turning it into something positive.
And I think they were lifelong friends, Julius Campbell and Gary Bertier.
Now, Julius was left side or strong side?
Strong side.
What's your favorite sports movie? Have we talked about this before?
I don't know if we have. Man, there's so many out there.
What's your favorite football movie?
I think Remember the Titans has got to be up there.
It's got to be.
I feel like Denzel is pretty iconic.
I've got Remember the Titans. I've got Varsity Blues. I've got The Program.
Any Given Sunday, that's a good classic one. I love the speech by Pacino at the end where he's like, every inch matters. You fight for that inch. The Replacements, Keanu Reeves. I don't even know. I don't know that I've seen it once.
I think you're starting to get into the second tier there.
The rom-com version.
The Gridiron Gang and
Longest Yard.
Well,
that's a good one.
And there's the Mark Wahlberg one where he's that guy from the Eagles.
Ooh, Invincible.
Yeah.
Vince Papale.
What was the movie about Marshall? Was it just called Marshall?
We Are Marshall.
It's Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been quite a few, but I think Remember the Titans probably gets that top spot.
Yeah.
It's the story, the acting, all of it combined.
Yeah, pretty all-star cast.
Pretty powerful movie. I love, Sunshine. And the cast. I mean, gosh, I was looking at it the other day. Ryan Gosling is in there. I was like, is that Ryan Gosling?
Yeah.
And they just did such a good job with that movie and putting that story together. Who was the assistant coach? Because he's a pretty big actor too.
Will Patton.
Hayden
Panettiere's in it.
Yeah, she's in the stands.
The daughter.
They take it.
Donald Faison, Petey. Kate Bosworth. It was Bertier's girlfriend.
Yes.
A solid movie. Any other football guys then?
No, just had to give Julius Campbell a shout out
He
there.
is a well-deserving shout out and a good sidetrack.
Yeah.
But back to the task at hand.
Okay.
As we need to do every week, do need to come down to a final best 81 of all time. I think we already discussed earlier that it would likely be an NFL or football guy. Is Julius Campbell, would he be in contention for this? Or are outside of the sports, like if we're talking one, and I think Henry Rowan is the greatest number one of all time, is that up for debate?
Well, I do believe we said earlier, respect the art, not the artist. So if we're talking just the game, Julius Campbell had quite an impact on civil rights and used football as his platform. But I'm going to have to say that maybe he's not going to.
We're leaving
the
them
top
off.
spot.
I'm thinking if there's like some guy we're talking about a number that maybe doesn't have a first ballot best of person, if there's some pop culture that kind of.
I mean, Henry Rowan has stats to back it up.
He did only play for that, half year? He didn't play more than 1 year. He had to go back to middle school, I think. But he had that ephus pitch at the end there. I think if there's someone, I'm going to push for it though, down the road. I don't think today Julius Campbell is going to be on the finalist, but down the road, I might have to fight for somebody. I don't know who yet, but
there's going to be an episode where they're going to be a finalist. Now, I thought 11 from Stranger Things could have been in contention for 11.
Yeah, it's
being that's our actual name.
Literally the name, yeah.
I don't think we touched on that, but Larry's not an athlete either.
And Mark Messier was better than her, I think.
Yeah, so was Isaiah Thomas.
But no, we got to get back on task here. I think if we had to get it down to a final three, I'm thinking T.O., Calvin Johnson, Tim Brown.
I'm good with it. I think it's crazy that Anquan Bolden and Torrey Holt are footnotes.
It's a shame, but they're not on the same level as the other guys we talked about. They're not in the Hall of Fame. The other guys all were 81 for their whole careers. It's tough to compete when you have 16,000 yards, played for 15 plus years, and you only played for 13.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Anquan Bolden, what was that injury? Fractured his face. You remember that injury?
Ooh, sounds like an insult you gave me once.
Yeah, Anquan Bolden fractured sinus.
Ouch.
I think he got some wires and came back within a few weeks, but still doesn't make the top three. What has to be one of the most painful injuries?
Yeah, he was. I vaguely remember that. I think it was a helmet to helmet.
Oh, I'm sure. Probably didn't even call a penalty back then.
It's like he was hit by Eric Smith, fined $50,000 and suspended one game.
Oh, wow.
Probably because he had fractured his sinuses. Like, you got to do something there.
Yeah, but he only missed like 3 weeks. But yeah, I'm good with that top three.
And no disrespect to Tim Brown, but I think it's between T.O. and Megatron.
I agree.
I'll let you start the debate. I really have no defined. I'm still on the fence here.
I think the two of them have very similar styles. I think the two of them, when it comes to playing the game, not necessarily off the field, but their size, their strength, their hands, their speed, all pretty similar. I think I've got to give the edge to T.O. based on the fact that I think he's just as good as Calvin Johnson and was able to play for a little bit longer, get a few more stats, and just in my opinion has a little bit more of a legacy after his career was done.
He has almost double the amount of touchdowns that Calvin Johnson had. I feel like in the past, we've kind of, once we get down to it, we do look at the numbers. Neither of them have a Super Bowl. They're both in the Hall of Fame. T.O. does have the playoff experience that Calvin didn't have. I think I, too, would be leaning towards T.O.
Yeah, T.O., 54 catches, 751 yards, 5 touchdowns in 12 playoff games. That's 54 catches and 751 yards and 5 touchdowns more than Calvin Johnson's.
True.
Well, Calvin played in the playoffs, just never won.
I think so. I think he had a couple games. I guess we should.
17 catches for 296 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2 games. I mean, 2 games, almost
No,
300 yards,
that
17 catches.
that is actually impressive.
This guy.
But with only 2 games, I think this is another, dare I say, easy debate we had. I feel like I feel like it kind of takes all the excitement out of the debate when we agree. I think we should be raising the jersey. Are we picking the Niners? The Niners 81?
Yeah, I think I'll agree with you that we'll hang that Niners jersey up. That's where he started. That's where he made a name for himself. And then kind of bounced around after that. Had a pretty, probably became more of a household name once he joined the Eagles and went to a couple conference championships and a Super Bowl and started to become more of the diva that he's known for today.
Yeah, he had a 15-year career, half of those, 8 of them, more with the Niners. I think that's probably where he belongs.
I'm good with that. And I love the red and gold. I love the jersey.
It's a good jersey.
Yeah. I mean, now it will just be showing red and white from our side when we hang up the front. We can hang it up on the front, though.
I think the back, we got to stick with
got to have the name on there.
The name is, I feel like, what makes it. There we go. Number 81, Terrell Owens, the greatest number 81 to do it. Topped a whole bunch of fellow receivers and really just destroyed all the other sports that really weren't up to par. I think now it's time to see what we're going to be doing next week. We'll spin the wheel.
$31. I know where my head goes right away.
Yeah, you're a Pacers guy.
Oh, Reggie Miller. Miller time.
The first name, I guess, maybe should also be in your book too, as a UConn guy. Donald Brown. He was 31 with the Colts.
Oh yeah,
he missed that one block that one time.
Yeah,
he's not going to be one of the top 31s.
Yeah, probably not Peyton's best friend, but yeah.
But he had 2,000 yards with the in college in 1 year.
Did he really?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm blanking on other 31s, but yeah, Reggie Miller is definitely going to be a contender. Trying to think of, Greg Maddux. He's 31. The professor. Should be
Mike Piazza.
Oh, Mike Piazza. I think he was 31. All right, this could be a good debate.
From your time, Fergie Jenkins.
Oh, that's true. I am very old, so. There we have the greatest number 81 of all time in our books, Terrell Owens. Write us, let us know if you agree, disagree, if there are any players that we missed. Our email address is digitsdynastypodcast@gmail.com. Next week, we're going to be looking at the number 31. If there are any players that are not to be left off the list, any stories that need to be told about these players who wore the number 31, our email address again is digitsdynastypodcast@gmail.com.
That's my quarterback.
That's my teammate, man. We lost as a team.
It's not fair.
I want you to say that to his face.
No thanks.
He will destroy you.
Looking forward to 31.
31's going to be a good one.
Something on Malice at the Palace.
Oh.
Where they were trying to arrest Reggie Miller because he was in a suit. He's like, I'm Reggie. And
he was just there as a fan?
The cop didn't know who he was. And his teammate's like, that's Reggie Miller. And
do you not know who Reggie Miller is?
I don't know who that is. I'm just a cop.
He got fired soon after that. Because I was in Indiana, right?
No, that was in Detroit.
Oh, okay. So I guess there was the cop deserves a little break there, but
you don't know who Reggie.
You should know who Reggie Miller is. Thank you for listening, and please join us next week as we count down another number on the list.